understanding. These are technical issues that are out of our hands, but our wonderful technicians were able to fix it right on time. Today, we're going to start with this week that is about profiling your customers, and I will explain how we're going to work along the week. You all have this journey in this piece of paper, and maybe some of you already saw the program online or in websites or blogs. So it is very important that you can download Condor software, because you're going to use it with Maya and Innova tomorrow, and it has in the web page that is noted here. It has instructions, and it's good to get a little bit familiar with that, so we can start tomorrow's session with already. Oh, it's on Wednesday actually, so you can have some familiarity with the Condor. So I'll go very rapidly through the program, and then I will introduce Francesca and Carla. Today is a context day, so we will start with a panel talking about the concept of interdependence, which is the concept that we want to make the center of the Trendslab this year, for obvious reasons. It has a lot to do with our political reality, social reality, and at the end it has a lot to do with how business connect with their customers and communities, and how we have a sustainable presence in society. So we will have around an hour or so of the panel. We will present the concepts. We will present the concepts that are linked to the interdependence idea, and we will end up talking about symbiosis, which is one important and very new word for the world of business. On day 2, you will join Carla, who is at my left, to go out on the streets and make field work on observation. I have to say that the way we will work along the week is with 8 business projects that come from our entrepreneurship program, and after our coffee break, our entrepreneurs will do a very short pitch of 1 minute, so we can conform teams, and each one of you can join a team. One important thing is that all teams need to have at least 5 people, 6 people, apart from the entrepreneurs, and we want to have like balanced work. So I see that we are a lot of people, so we try to keep like because physical space here is, you can see, is limited, so we will be working together in teams. We will be working around the business ideas that our entrepreneurs are going to pitch in at 7. So you can choose which project to join, and which project you will work for the rest of the week. The idea of working in this way is that you have a real project to apply all the methodologies that we're going to provide you, and it's not just methodologies, in abstract, but applied methodologies that you can really use afterwards, having done something around it. That's how we will work. Each team will get a toolbox. That means one physical cardboard box with canvases and materials to work. So you're gonna have to work around this. We will give it that after the coffee break, after the pitch, and then I will explain the methodology for the whole week. Along the week, you will have work sessions, and you will have keynotes that will help you understand all the concepts, and that will help you apply. So today we will have a lot of methodology after the coffee break, and you will be handed with the toolbox as a team. And during the whole week, you will be using that methodology to identify signals and patterns and drivers and trends and all different things. We will have two teleconferences. One is with Juan Izaza, who is Vice President for DDV Latina, which is like all Spanish countries. He will connect from Miami. He's going to show us how he creates trend reports and how they are used at DDV. And then we will have another teleconference from Lisbon, and it's someone from Trend Hunter, which is another trends agency. He will also tell us how he works and how they work with trends in Trend Hunter. For the rest is very much centered on the work you do for the project and how you discuss and apply the methodology in your teams and share and enjoy the week. So for now, that's pretty much it. I'm going fast with the program. On day 2, we will have Carla, as I was saying, with you, and I will be with you as well in the streets. We want to observe final customers, start observing signals and start observing behavior patterns. And then we will come back to the building, and Josep Maria Munguet will have a keynote about collective intelligence. So we will understand a little bit how the groups work, how groups behave, and then we will understand drivers and motivations, which are the drivers that pull collective groups into behaviors. Then on Wednesday, we will go and explore, do a little net hunting that maybe some of you have already done. With Majaninova, you're going to use Condor on Wednesday, which is a really interesting software that MIT has developed to understand social networks. After that, we connect with Juan Izaza, and then at this point, you should be able to start identifying trends and start identifying the first selection of trends that you want to work with. On Thursday, we will have Nelson Piñeiro. He works at the University of Lisbon that has a similar program as we do, and he works for Trends Observer, which is a trends agency in Portugal. So he will explain about trend narratives and the actual content of a trend and how to analyze them. And during this workshop, you will be able to understand the present and future trends. So you will be able to start projecting these trends into the future. So understanding how patterns and cycles relate and how this is going to go into the future. And for these, you will be also able to do projection of how your customers will follow trends in the future. How far in the future, each team will determine how far they want to do the forecast, and this forecast is really essential for understanding future scenarios and opportunity scenarios for each one of the businesses. So then we connect with Pedro from Trend Hunter. And on day 5, which is the final day, is Friday, you will have some time to start discussing in teams about the opportunity scenarios that you have observed according to the trends, according to the drivers, according to the forecast of the users, and how do you project that those opportunities for each one of the entrepreneurial projects. After that, you will do a 5-minute presentation of what you discover, how it looks for each one of the businesses, each one of the entrepreneurial projects, and how you have applied all the trends methodology and the trends observation for that specific project. So we will have a kind of very compact use of the whole methodology along the week. Good. And now we start. So I'm very happy to introduce today for the panel Francesca Tour. She runs tendencias.tv. I don't know if you want to. say hi.
Hi everyone. We will talk about a lot of things. I think I would be the third, right?
Yeah.
So I would like share a lot of insights and impacts about nowadays things with that topic.
Okay. Carla, some of you already know, Carla is a sociologist, and she will be part of a panel as well. She will put us more in the context of the trends in terms of social trends. Would you like to?
Well, I will contextualize. Well, hello everybody. First, I'm a sociologist, as Jorge mentioned, and I'm teaching in MIDI and in MADE as well, here in Elisava. And yeah, I will contextualize the interdependence phenomena, how this is applied in society and how we see that in politicians, in economic sphere, social sphere. You will have the transversal idea of interdependence, and then how that it's happening in each of these spheres of area, which I think will be interesting for you afterwards to contextualize your users.
Okay. Perfect. So we're going to start taking a dictionary definition about interdependence, and is very simple. Is, as everyone assumes, it says that is the state of being dependent upon one another. So this means that it means interaction. It implies more than one actor or more than one subject to be in a context. So we have relied on this concept this year because the topic of isolation and the topic of individualization has become very, very strong, and somehow we find more and more conversations about sustainability, and we find conversations about social initiatives, but many of them become islands. Many of them become like very personal conversations or very intimate conversations. So thinking about the entrepreneurs and thinking about how business and social impact works, we wanted to make an emphasis in interdependence as a way of connecting not only the business but the brand and everything the company does in a double way sense. Marston Bates is a zoologist, and he talks about interdependence from a nature perspective. He relies in the concept of symbiosis, and the whole ecosystem of the planet and the whole ecosystem of nature, including us, is based on symbiosis. So for an ecosystem to work, for any ecosystem to be functional, all the actors need to be related to each other, and all of them are working for each other at the end. So there's no possible isolation, and there's no possible individual acting in nature. And Marston Bates has a lot of work on that, and he actually is one of the scientists that analyzed yellow fever, and he discovered that yellow fever happens because of a mosquito. Before he pointed this, nobody knew why yellow fever was there. So this is one scientific approach, I would say, and it's related to we will see that is related to the chaos theory. In a very different context, in the context of business and brands, Bharat Bambabwale is one of the most lucid brand directors that India has. He's been working with all of the main agencies and companies like Procter & Gamble, the biggest companies in the world, Unilever as well, and he approaches the relationship between the brands, the companies, and the markets in an interdependence approach, making emphasis in the mutual fulfillment, which is a very interesting concept. It's not just a matter of sales anymore. It's not just a matter of being able to push products and brands into the market, but it's a matter of satisfaction. It's a matter of how you are really fulfilled by what the companies and the brands can offer in the form of product, services, and other type of offers in the market. So it's very interesting that from the marketing perspective, we have a very similar approach than from science and from sociology. The next quote that I want to include is Charles Darwin, and he mentions that in humankind evolution, those who have been able to collaborate and improvise most effectively, I would say working in teams, working in symbiosis, have prevailed. Those who don't have disappeared. Those who haven't been able to collaborate and support each other, or being able to improvise together, have been extinct species. So with these three quotes, we come into a more deeper and complex understanding of interdependence. In this sense, if we look at the world today, we look at a very subjective world. We look at the many versions of reality where we don't really know what is real and what is not, because we have too many truths outside. We have so many versions of truth that we can see anything from a very different perspective. Same happens with the news, with history, and of course with brands, products, and services. So it's really difficult to create a connection, and it's really difficult to create symbiosis at this point, because some of your users or some of your customers will be totally connected, and some of others will be hating, because we have too many versions of truth. We don't have any official version of anything. Any official version that is issued is immediately questioned and is immediately changed, and doesn't really last for a long time. So we can see it in the news, we can see it all the time since the information technology has been out there. We have been looking at citizen journalism, we've been looking at blogs, we've been looking at official newspapers being contradicted all the time, being questioned most of the time. So we have a big plurality, big diversity of opinion, and a lot of versions about what happens in the world. So it's really hard, it's really difficult for all of us to really understand what happens out there. And reality becomes very complex. And we don't really know who is right, who is wrong, what is true, what is not, right? And we are pushed to create our own realities. We are pushed to exercise criteria, like exercise analysis, and say, okay, I'm connecting with this, I'm not connecting with that, but that constantly changes. So in this sense, we really are dependent, and others are dependent on us, on the versions we issue and the versions we receive about reality. In the last year, there was a lot of controversy about fake news, and Donald Trump has been one of the biggest promoters of this concept of fake news, because he's questioning the television channels and news media all of the time. So people don't really know what is true and what is not. That could be a strategic, of course. So in all this complexity that we have to face every day, creating these relationships is constantly approved. So day by day, even personal relationships need to be proved, need to be reinforced, and need to be restated. So there is a short-term permanence in most of the things. So customers are less loyal and have a faster opportunity to leave. Same with political parties, same with ideologies, same with any kind of collective that is sharing values or ideas. We normally have an enthusiasm with the brand or an enthusiasm, but that can really go away very fast, because we're subject to a lot of information, and we are subject to a lot of fake news and no news and disinformation. So that creates like very short relationships in terms of fidelity to brands, to political parties, and to ideas as a whole. And this creates brands and reshape the brands all the time, and it reshapes the currents as well, and reshape the trend. So we have very unexpected turns of the trend, very unexpected turns of what is happening with he died. You hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good. So I was saying that we have very short trends, very short turns of events, and things can change rapidly and unexpectedly most of the time. And this takes me to a very interesting. Oh, there's something going on here. I don't know. I'm gonna push this button. That is the butterfly effect. Some of you have heard about. Oh boy. Oh no. No, I will use this. Hopefully. Hello? Okay, we were talking about these temporary interdependencies, where when we finally are able to make a link, right, to establish these relationships, there's a shift in reality. There's a shift in trends. There's a shift, and we are forced to join another movement, follow a different trend, follow a different ideological group, or even follow other new brands or dying brands. So the butterfly effect is a very interesting concept that I would like to show you from a scientific perspective. And this is a YouTube video that I hope it works. And here we go.
Nature is highly complex, and the only prediction you can make is that she is incalculable. The amazing unpredictability of nature is what makes it marvelous and mysterious. This is what chaos theory looks at. To simplify and further explain this phenomenon, one of the early pioneers in chaos theory, Edward Lorenz, an American mathematician and meteorologist, coined the butterfly explanation, or popularly known as the butterfly effect. Driven in 1963, the theory implies that in some part of the world, an action as small as a butterfly flapping its wings might create tiny changes in the atmosphere, which would eventually lead to drastic ups and downs in the environment, causing events as catastrophic as a hurricane in a completely different part of the world. Had the butterfly not flapped its wings, the trajectory of the system might have been vastly different. Let us illustrate this with some existing patterns. Early October 1907, a young man takes the entrance examination to the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. Of 133 initial applicants, only 28 pass. This man is not one of them. Fueled with rage, when he asked the examining board for an explanation, they said that his drawings lacked an artistic inclination. Little did they know, this man was an anti-Semite and would eventually go on to become the Chancellor of Germany, turning him into one of the major factors at beginning the Holocaust and the Second World War, Adolf Hitler. In 1962, American scientists and military experts feared what might happen in the event of a Soviet attack on the nation's telephone system. A computer scientist named J.C.R. Licklider proposed a solution to this problem, a galactic network of computers that could talk to one another. Little did they know, this idea would eventually be transformed and used for sharing information, entertainment, social networking, etc. by more than 2 billion people today. The World Wide Web. And if only one thing had happened differently, if the Americans were not paranoid about the Soviets, or if Hitler wasn't rejected from art school, it might have been an altered world we would be living in today. Now, how far back could you go in your life to show whose move at what time sparked a series of events that led up to you watching this video, making you what you are today? There are generations yet unborn whose very lives will be shaped and shifted by what you do today or tomorrow and the next day, because everything you do matters.
So here, the butterfly effect totally connects with the interdependence concept that we want to work with. And we've been trying to help companies and help entrepreneurs to really understand that everything they do, everything from wherever they conceive their businesses, everything they say, everything they do, every little action counts. But it's really unpredictable where these things may go. It's very, very predictable, even if we have a planning, even if we have a forecast, even if we have the ability to somehow predict where the company is going or where the market may be shaping. So as an exercise, that's why we are applying the whole week the possibility of forecasting. Then in the same context, we get into two additional contexts, which is autonomy and heteronomy. Autonomy is the possibility to self-govern ourselves. That means that we have the total control of what we are and what we can do. But normally, if we go under the interdependence concept that is reinforced by the butterfly effect, that is not real. We are subject to a lot of influences, and these influences can be analyzed. So we create frameworks where we can govern ourselves, where we can shape our behaviors, and we also depend on these systems that we create. For example, if we create law, humans have created law, but then law determines humans. This is how the regulations evolve and change, but this is also how regulations constrain everything we do. In today's reality, we see that the law and the reality don't really match. Technology and social development goes faster than legislation, and in many opportunities we can see how legislation is outdated, and things happen even before we can create a framework for them. That happens a lot with technology, is happening with big data, the regulation of the use of people's information, is happening with a lot of things in biomedics is also happening. So things happen, and us as human beings have the autonomy to create these frameworks, but we are also at the same time constraining ourselves in those frameworks that we need to change every now and then. And these frameworks are the ones that create political parties, that create social communities, and that create countries, and that create companies, legislations, and culture. So it's a paradox where we are creating these scenarios where we are many times trapped. So autonomy and heteronomy relate to freedom, relate to the freedom that we give ourselves and others, but also relate to the way we constrain this freedom. So that's the purpose of legislation. One important aspect of these, and as I was mentioned before, is what companies can do with batches in regulation, what companies can do using the technology, or what companies can do using social or political transition moments. So there's a lot of, on one side, business opportunities and impact opportunities in society that are not regulated, even before they happen, even after they happen. So we find things like, for example, free trade agreements, where these free trade agreements try to frame the relationship between countries, the commercial relationship between countries, and how they can import and export services and products. But it's not regulated how the information of users, how the management of the data from these two countries is going to happen. Is this information belonging to one of the countries? Is this information being protected under the legislation of the first country or the other? So we don't really know, even if we have a framework that will be the free trade agreement, what happens mostly with people's information. We have several identities, and most companies are trading with these identities, are using the identities to be able to provide us with information, but are also using the identities in many other ways that are under-regulated or totally unregulated. So one important factor in the interdependence is how this data is treated, and which is the role that this data plays when commerce happens between companies and final users. So these identities are not only social identities, are all those identities we have that are digital, all these data we provide every day, not only in terms of social networks, but in the way we use our credit cards, the way we trade, the way we visit places, the way we use services like Google, that is tracking our body, tracking our movements, tracking all the activities that we develop. So normally consumers absolutely have no clue about this. We agree, because we like to agree on terms and condition documents, and we don't really know what is happening there. But that creates a dependence of the companies in our data, and also a dependence from our side on what the companies are doing with that data. Good or bad, we don't really know. We're not here to judge, but we create this dependence on the information that we use and the information that we provide. So it's an unregulated exchange. And finally, following this path, we find very relevant that the information becomes both a capital and a right. So people should be aware of what happens with the information that they provide, how this creates and provides dependence from companies and government, how everything that we say or do digitally or socially can affect either companies or government. right? Because more and more we as citizens and as consumers are participating all the time, even if we don't realize, even if we don't know, we are participating in movements, we are participating in trends, we are participating in markets, just by one click or just by visiting one place, but we're not fully aware of this. So there is a level of interdependence that we are not fully aware of, or companies are neither fully aware of. Okay, now follow Carla.
Okay. Well, I'm going to continue with Jorge's explanation, probably bringing back some of the concepts he just mentioned, he just explained, but putting yourself in the frame of reference of a sociological perspective. Okay, the first thing that I want to explain to you is to have the idea that we are to get the concept of better society, of this uncertain moment that we are living, this non-fixed situation of anything, this dynamism of all of this is making us to live in this concept of better. No? We are an unfinished version, and society is an unfinished version. So we have to deal with that, and in that sense we have to adapt constantly. We have to be enough flexible to be in permanent change, in a permanent better stage. And in that sense, we are in a permanent testing as well, and we have to have that in mind as well, that we are permanently testing everything, and we have to be permanently observing and analyzing these permanent changes, not because in a very short moment things gonna be changing, and we as researchers or from the company point of view, we have to be really testing and reviewing constantly. So the idea of a better society and the idea that we are in permanent change, it's very important to have in mind. Then, as Jorge mentioned, we are surrounded by technology. We are in this technology era. Everything is technology, and technology as such is something that it's changing constantly and being under a very fast evolution. In every moment we have something new, and we have to update and learn more. And in that sense, ourselves as well, as persons, as individuals in this society, we also need to update our systems. Taking out this metaphor of a better society and updating, also as individuals we have to be updating. Again, it's the idea of constant adaptation to the other, and to the others, and to ourselves. And with this consciousness that it's very important to have of this dynamism. Well, if we live in big cities where the trends are going on, we live in complex organisms. We have, again, this idea, this metaphor with the nature, organisms and symbiosis, and city as such is a complex organism, full of interdependences, full of microorganisms that are interacting to each other. And in that sense, we also have to have the effort to be in constant negotiation as citizens, as consumers, as clients, as providers. We all have to deal with this complexity by being able to adapt, to negotiate, to adapt to this complexity. And as we mentioned before, in this complex world, we are not isolated. We may thought in the past that we could do things by ourselves, but well, the real thing is that luckily we are surrounded by others, and instead of seeing others as competitors, it's more smart to see in this complex moment as collaborators, as the sum of individuals, the groups, the communities can be a better choice than to do it on your own. It is better to face uncertainty with others than by yourself. For that reason, in this transitional society, we are doing this interdependence relationships. We are creating communities, and all of you probably have experienced that in yourselves, joining different groups that you belong to, defining your identities by your interests, your passions, your professions, etc. And it's a phenomenon right now. This community gathering in order to deal better with this context of uncertainty. And we are now in this community context and with this interdependent society, seeing that we have diversity, we have different parts, we have different persons with different skills, different segments in society, and an important skill and a challenge is to try to get parts together, try to integrate. No, so integration, to have the ability to integrate things is going to be an important thing in this context. So, how are we currently applying this interdependence or creating symbiosis, as Jorge mentioned, in the different areas of society? No? Let's see how does this work in the economic sphere and the political sphere, social sphere, etc. First, the context is here is the globe. Oops, where? Okay, imagine the globe there. There. Well, globalization is the first frame of reference, the first umbrella that brought us the necessity or the need to interdepend, to depend to one to another. No? Nations were not isolated anymore. Economy is not isolated anymore by states. We are all interconnected in this globalization world, and everything is transversal. No? In this context. The first thing is the consciousness, and that's very important because it has always been interdependence between the humans and nature, but the importance is that we became conscious of this interdependence and how this interdependence affected. The first area where we see interdependence is in sustainability. In this sense, the sustainability development is this interdependence of the society with the economy and with the natural environment. Again, the idea of that becomes conscious of this interdependence relationship and have it as an actionable issue. Afterwards, we will see with the examples we're going to explain you a lot of situations where this consciousness of interdependence between humans and nature is really clear. Then in the economy sphere, there is a concept very clear that it's this combination effect in the new economy. This combination effect, as I mentioned before, it's more important and it's greater than the stand-alone effect. Before, each of us was doing on your own. We prefer not to share because maybe then the other will advance me or will copy me or so. But we are in this context where, okay, why don't we share, why don't we combine, we join together, maybe it works better for us, no? In that sense, we have to, when we are applying interdependence in the economic spheres, we have to see the area of the ecosystem, the business area as an ecosystem, and as Jorge mentioned, an ecosystem with all the parts taking a role, and all the parts are equally important. So consumers or customers or citizens have a similar role as the providers and also the companies. So all the stakeholders, all the actors of these business ecosystems are equally important, no? And form this organism again in this interdependence economy. And then we have the new capital base in the greater collective thinking, where, as we see, it's important to the sum of these ideas, no, to go better and to benefit before instead of being single entities. And then sharing economy. This is the win-win situation, where it's not only about the opportunities to get profit of all the products, all the assets to the full and be more sustainable, but also the win situation that the consumers receive when they get the feeling they are having the freedom to choose, no? So this is this new role of the consumers, of the clients, of being the main characters of the experience. Okay, so this is something that the interdependence phenomena is also bringing in the sharing economy sphere. And then, as we also mentioned, this phenomena is also happening in politics, where we can see where now that the area of parties is going down. At the moment, we have seen situations where parties are undefined, losing definition, and instead of belonging to a fixed party, you may be going after a specific issue, and it doesn't matter the party you belong to, but we are all in the national list, for instance, in the case of Catalonia. We are all together for the refugee situation. So this idea of interdependence for common concerns, no? And at the same time, in the political sphere, we see interdependence also with the emergence of the civil society and these social movements, and how these social movements which are the sum of the citizens and the individuals, are taking a very important part in political decisions. So it's again this we end up with a dependency era where the state was the papa and we were the children's, and now we are in a more equal interdependence relationship, no? And in this context also we need supranational organizations because of these transversal and global affairs that sometimes are not capable to be dealt by nations, no? So in this sense, the United Nations, the European Commission for European issues will become more and more important. And then in our personal sphere or area, no, we see also these interdependence phenomena in friends, in group of friends, and in family. No? We see a balance between the autonomy of the members and the autonomy or the more collective or group feeling, no? Or unit feeling. No? And basically, yes, this is the idea that the families now, they are more horizontal in their relationships, and in also in the private spheres like friends, and so also this horizontal relationship is becoming more important. So that it's very important when brands, when product services adverses to families, for instance, as a target, and how to treat the different members and the family as a whole. Finally, and before a video that tries to synthesize this interdependence concept, there is two quotes that try to explain or close the idea of interdependence when we as individuals think of that. If I had an independent thinking, I would say I don't need anyone's help. I can do it by myself. That's something that it was very useful to say, very used to say before, no? But in the interdependence thinking, understands that it's not a matter of needing. It's not that I need or that I'm lacking something. No, it's about the best use of available resources and working smart. So it's a chain of paradigm. It's a new paradigm. Sorry, that we have, no? So I can accomplish even more with the assistance of others, and I appreciate the opportunity to call the expertise of others. So that's the point in the two ways of thinking, no? Okay, and to then up, yeah, we go to this YouTube video that it's talking about this interdependence concept. It's a short film, and afterwards we can make some comments about it.
Jeg tror nok veldig mange føler seg fremmedgjort i det samfunnet vi lever i dag. Vi kjenner på en måte ikke husene, eller hvordan husene våre er laget, eller vi vet ikke hva slags klær vi går i, hvordan de har blitt laget, eller
people who pray to the sun gods and the
Jeg tror nok veldig mange føler seg fremmedgjort i det samfunnet vi lever i i dag. Vi kjenner på en måte ikke husene, eller hvordan husene våre er laget, eller vi vet ikke hva slags klær vi går i, hvordan de har blitt laget, eller pray to the sun gods and the rain gods and the moon, and it just seems so natural, like this is part of their environment.
They just don't think about it. I mean, you don't see the destructions behind what you wear, or by what you eat, or by what you use.
kan føle ekstrem sammenheng da når du driver med hage, for eksempel det at du er i kontakt med jorda og naturens prosesser, at du får et frø og det blir en plante og du blir veldig ekstremt engasjert. Og det er nesten som å bare gå i transe eller flow, ekstrem flow.
We've created lives where we can get exactly what we want and do exactly what we want.
Ta seg på føttene er også et veldig fint symbol på det å bare komme nærmere noen ting. Være litt mer ydmyk og var for hvor man er, hvor man står.
I was running along and I came to this sort of opening in between the trees. Light came out, and then I was sure that it was God who was talking to me there. He came and met me there, and it was just such an incredible, peaceful experience. Just thinking, oh, this is a good thing to be doing, or this is okay.
There's this hope that there is this really strong amazingness in human beings, and then at the same time that we are living in a quite destructive culture.
And feels, of course, change can happen. I'm hopeful about it, but it also feels very difficult.
There's interdependence, I guess. It's just the natural quality of living our lives.
Okay, well, this short film, I think the main message was to be aware of all these connections, no? To be aware of this interdependence that we are surrounded. And now Francesca is going to introduce us the touching examples about all of that. And I pass you.
Some examples of what companies and brands are doing using these concepts that we have talked about and using all this complexity that we've been searching for.
So let's go, keep on moving. Those ones are going to be the only flags here. I know we are talking about interdependence, but we are not going to talk about countries or cities at the moment. When we start sharing this idea, because to arrive here is like a discussion, I think we need to discuss a lot, and it's not just one point of view, if not perspective. So here is like a lot of examples, and we need to build a lot of perspective together. We are, as they said, in a permanent testing. I think that's really important, because I don't know where I'm going to be like in 5 months, so I don't know my company, even my friends, so that's really, 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 really important if we are going to build or do something. For me, that example is amazing. It's that photographer who were like lying in her living room, like, okay, I have 700 friends on Facebook, but I'm alone. So she started this program and she ran all that miles just to go with them and photograph all of them together. So for me, that's a changing moment. That means that we have multiple dreams, so we are fragmented and we know we all know about that, but we need to take like the idea of multiple dreams, because before, like 15 years ago, maybe it was 1 or 2 or 3, and I'm thinking about cars or houses. Now we have a lot of dreams. Even the governments are like in this beta movement. I think that's amazing. Then if someone needs some link, I have like all the links of all the images. Like Finland is giving citizens money a month for free as an experiment. Imagine a government like doing an experiment. So if I'm a company, why not? So that's the moment we are living. So when we start talking about symbiosis and brands, the first thing I came up to my mind was like H&M, the North European company that every year is like partnering, like team up with some another designer, more focused fashion designer. In this case was last week, and is with Erdem. And for me is what Carla was talking, like it's more like the sum of the parts, because H&M is from the north of European, Erdem is like British, but then the party was in Hollywood, and then everything surrounded by flowers. So when we put two together, everything is like much bigger, like than a normal symbiosis. Then here locally, like we have like H&M in Gran Via with Passeig de Gracia, where is this small flax and kale. So the idea that a big company arrived to Barcelona and said, I would like to do the biggest one in Spain. It's going to be here, and I would like to have a place where you can have like a coffee or tea. And they look for this local place called Flax and Kale. And when you talk with them, you said Flax and Kale. But it's a big company. No, Flax and Kale is small. It's just one restaurant next to Plaza Universitat, and H&M was just looking for that thing, like a exclusive and a small local thing. So at the end of the day, that's also like to make teams or symbiosis. So keep on thinking about symbiosis. I was thinking about Levi's. For sure you know this commuter collection, when Levi's realized that people is like commuting, like riding, and not by car or by train. So I would like to wear jeans, but if it's raining, the jean gets wet. So start working like in all that assets and details that makes the perfect fit if you are like riding and you are Levi's. Interesting how they use like all these values. For sure we can be here like hour, but we need to go far, but then you can check all of them. When the collection or the team up like with the right people, with the writing people, they said okay, it's okay with men, let's go with women. So after 3 years they go with the women collection, and that's the latest thing they make with Jacquard. Anyone here knows what Jacquard? What? Exactly. So Jacquard is a Google project, and that's what they make too. So first Levi's like thinking and niching like a customer, like profiling, as Jorge said, customers, and then going with Google, you need to check like Jacquard project. So let's start with some brands that I think they are, or projects or business or company or startups that they are like with these butterfly effects that Jorge said. Maybe some could look like abstract, but all of them has a reason to be here. The first one is Amazon Echo, the hands-free speaker. Like for sure, we need to be there in this data-driven market that we are living in. First, we have Casper. Casper is like mattresses. They are like selling mattresses. And before, like 5 years ago, to sell a mattress, it was like a mess. You need to go to store, blah, 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 and try them, and then they need to pick at your place with a big truck. And Casper was the first one in USA, like making like online. It's the same as Warby Parker, which are the glasses, and they all have a normal pricing, and then they just work in the digital because they sell you like e-commerce, but then they make this thing in real life. Important how the symbiosis about the digital projects and the real life is much more farther than the pop-up concepts, and they make that nap in progress, and they are like cruising the United States, and you can do a nap for a while, and it's just promo of the matrices, but they have like this e-commerce, so I'm selling online and I don't have a store even team, but then I have this thing going on and moving between cities. Then we also have like in the same company Casper making like a specific product like this one. I love it, I would like to have one, and it's only selling Target, you know, like the mall where you can buy. So even I sell online, I have different products, and this one I team up with Target, and you only can go there and buy it there. Then we have like brands, like this one of Gwyneth Paltrow. I don't know if you are a fan of Gwyneth. I don't know, I have like contradictory feelings, but please check Goop, because Goop started like Gwyneth talking about my tips and my healthy tips and my food tips, but then now it's like a beauty company with creams and a lot of products, and you can buy them not just in the website, if not even in other concept stores and other places. All of this now I started with different values or different like roles that I think companies working in this symbiosis and this mashup of context, like they are like amplifying first diversity, no labels. I know when we are like doing a project, I need like 5 labels or tags, so the companies are not working in that field. For example, Mattel, like okay, I change all my dolls. Airbnb, that you know that have this policy when diversity is super important, and you need to say like before continue, belong anywhere, and you need to say tag to okay, I'm open-minded if I would like to be here, and that's important. Jorge was talking about agrees, so that agrees like I'm open-minded, sorry, no problems later. Then we have Tinder. I don't know if anyone knows about Tinder. Anyone knows about Tinder? Sorry, it's in Spanish, but it's easy to understand.
Soy Elisava, vivo artista y performer, y me considero una persona genderless.
Me llamo Valeria, soy periodista, escritora y además soy mujer transexual.
Soy Soraya, soy artista multidisciplinar y pansexual.
Hola, me llamo Iván, soy electricista y soy homosexual.
Soy Mapi, tengo 35 años, soy bisexual.
Hola, soy Mina, soy cantante de reggaetón y soy heterosexual.
Soy Jede, soy escritor, youtuber, DJ, hago un poco de todo. Soy género fluido. Entiendo que la sociedad establece esto es para chico, esto es para chica, pero yo soy más listo que ellos. Voy a hacer lo que me dé la gana porque voy a morir, entonces que mínimo de hacer lo que me dé la gana, ¿no?
No me gusta pensar que el mundo está dividido en solo 2 géneros.
Ya desde el colegio yo mi madre dejó de tener novios y novias, y cada amiguito que me hacía era mi novio y mi novia. No me limito a nada, me enamoro de las personas, de sus ambiciones, de su carisma, de sus sueños y de las cosas que tengamos en común.
La misión de las generaciones futuras es no bajar la guardia, el camino ya está hecho.
Nada, al que no le guste ajo de agua.
No te voy a decir tampoco que el camino ha sido hiper fácil, porque te encuentras con personas que te insultan, que no te entienden, que son intolerantes, pero al fin y al cabo son personas ignorantes y ese es su problema y su mochila, así que...
En los últimos años hemos avanzado bastante. De hecho, la sociedad va siempre por delante de las leyes.
¿Qué te importa que haya gente diferente celebrando?
Como que ha ido evolucionando cada vez más y más con las aplicaciones.
Realmente al final el género es tu personalidad.
El futuro ideal, cero etiquetas, cero clasificaciones y más autenticidad. El futuro sin género,
100% naturales siempre.
Y si existe la etiqueta, que no pasa nada que exista la etiqueta, que no se demonice la etiqueta.
Es muy guay que Tinder sea para la diversidad, que haya gente de todo tipo, menos mal.
So I don't know if we have had here like Tinder like 1 year ago, and it was at the beginning of the project, and we said, do you imagine this ad of your company like in 2 years for sure? They would say, no, I'm going to the another way. So diversity, a better moment than this amazing campaign. So in this symbiosis moment, purpose, I think we are living in empower moment. For sure, we all of us have seen this campaign, and this is empowerment because you believe that you are a great photographer. So at the end of the day, iPhone is just for people like to take these amazing people and they put like billboard worldwide. Dior, like fashion with all this feminism, and come on girls, so that's in this moment of chaos, diversity, no labels, like we should all be feminism. And now take attention which brands are gonna like empower masculinism, because there are some brands doing interesting things. Empowerment like a small things, like not a big cause. I don't need to be like with a big topic. This is what Urban Outfitters and the streetwear champions brand.
What does it mean to be a champion? To be a champion is to be resilient.
A champion is someone who wakes up every morning and does everything they say they're going to do.
A champion is someone who endures and perseveres.
A voice, a leader. A champion to you is someone who's not afraid to be one. Just be you. I'm Princess Nokia, and I champion community. I'm Laurel, and I champion...
I champion visibility, storytelling.
To follow the heart. What do you champion?
So champion was just looking like a small, not a big influencer, if not like a small causes with people with not a lot of following, just to show that essence of the company, like partnering with Urban Outfitters. This is amazing. It's truth. It's a campaign anti-tobacco in USA, but look at all like the content is a lot like super with younger style, and it's like empowerment not to smoking. I think this app, it's amazing. It's erase and replace, and when you have a picture someone smoking, you can stack like a label or something. And then they make this amazing collaboration with Vans, the sneakers. Imagine Vans, I don't know if you've been in Magba, but it's plenty of skaters smoking joints. So then Vans is like doing this campaign anti-tobacco, because at the end the context is complex and we need to be like in touch with all of them. Also, like there's a purpose in co-working places. WeWork is like the biggest one in the world. WeWork is like huge. I don't know if for sure they are gonna transform to a hotel or I don't know where, but if we see the mission statement is to create a world where people work to make a life, not just a living. So okay, I'm coming and I'm not a co-working, it's just live and work, it's the same. And they have like neons in all the places with all this mantra, like this neo mantra. This is amazing. I'm in love with this project. Is Tinge. Tinge is about like periods in women, and they use another way of talking about that, and they sell like this underwear clothing, and I think this campaign is like amazing, and it's nowadays.
This girl is about to get her period, but she's prepared. Oh, there it is. What you're seeing here is our period simulator. Because how else were we supposed to show you that your period goes into this underwear and does not come out? That is, without the use of fields of daisies, laughing, prancing women, or the ever-favorite blue liquid demonstration. Now, observe as the mystical menstruating human goes about her day performing any number of activities. Reading, eating, cramping, exercising, meditating, eating more, because it feels like you're eating for two, except not, because you're on your period, so there's no baby. And when she's on her computer, she could be writing a best-selling novel, or her local congressman, or she could just be looking at Facebook. Heck, she's even got a pineapple ukulele. And as we know, doing anything on your period is a true phenomenon by any measure, right? That's a joke. If you're thinking all of this is quite strange, that's because it is. I mean, you try advertising period underwear. Plus look, they work.
So for me that's like a symbiosis between like the girls, like all of us, and the world we are living, and I think that's present. I don't know if future, but for sure present. Then we have Evelyn. We were together, some guys of here, like last week, and we were talking about that. That's e-commerce, but that's also like sustainability, like the big topic. It's an e-commerce, but it's like tracking like all your things, and you have like the cost of materials, hardware, labor, duties, and transport. So they make like an analysis of everything you are buying. Then we have again the smart guys of H&M with Arcade, and they made like a copy paste of Everlane in 3 months. So now H&M has Arcade, and if you are like subscribers of the newsletter, it's the same. So they are working with the same things, and you can see the fabrics where they are like producing like all the materials. You can like track the things, but at the end of the day, it's like H&M behind. Then we have this amazing example, Patagonia. I think Patagonia, it's one of the case study we need to follow. This ad is amazing, don't buy this jacket, and they give you like 5 reasons why you don't need to buy my jacket, and I'm paying to tell you don't buy my jacket. But they go further, they never make commercials on TV, and the first one was not about the brand. Of course, at the end of the commercial was the brand, but it was about lands. And when President Trump like said a lot of problems with national and public places, Patagonia was like a player, a big player, like against all that new law that Donald Trump would like to put. And they have in the website, you have like all the information. So if you go to Patagonia, first of see the products, you see like my manifesto. I'm not favored to what Donald Trump is going to say, and I'm going to do my first commercial on TV just to share with people like we need to change this. And at the end, Patagonia is outdoor clothing brand, so I'm defending outdoors places, so I'm the leader in this cause. Then we have amazing what Diesel done like 3-4 weeks ago. The new campaign is about perfection is boring. I think that's beta. Perfection is boring, and the first thing they done, anyone heard about it? They delete all the social media feed. Like they delete all Instagram, all Twitter, everything, because perfection is boring, and we are living in experiment and beta everything. So hi, I'm new. So for me, that's like the campaign, and it go with the flow. Imperfect, I'm perfect. So I think they reflects this context at the moment we are living. We have like sarcasm and meme thing. BuzzFeed is like the big player in that thing. And then we have campaigns like this. We saw also the other way.
¿Quieres algo rico?
Sí, quiero algo rico.
Tenemos la promo del pollo.
¿Pollo? ¿Qué hay por el pollo?
Lo que quieres es pollo. A ti lo que te gusta es el pollo. Tira que chula, el culo y la lita. El rollo del pollo me tiene loquita. Rollo del pollo.
This is KFC, so it was real, it's not like a show, and it was on TV, and the sales were like boom. And if you go, because always we need to go like digital and real life, and if you go to a KFC and you said to the guy pollo, they are like loving, like all the places like loving. Then we have also, for me, that's irony or sarcasm or meme thing. That's the collaboration between Louis Vuitton and Supreme, and this is like to transport your skate. I don't know if you have seen anytime like a guy transporting the skate, because normally it's like here, but Louis Vuitton made this amazing case to transport yeah, like a violin, exactly. And also this collaboration that they made with Jeff Koons, the artist, and Louis Vuitton, and looks like fake, but at the end it's more expensive than the regular bags. Then for me, there's like also a topic inside this symbiosis, which is safety, and the brands need to play with safety. When you say safety, they think about condoms, but not. I have safety if someone takes care of my time, because time is really important. And what Uniqlo and MoMA are doing, like in different cities like Antwerp or even New York, and there's one day for free weekly, then Uniqlo pay for the ticket. So thanks Uniqlo to take care of my time, even money, and I go for free to the museum thanks to you. So for me, it's a company working around the idea of safety. Even like a lot of pongos we have, and this is to make your coffee wherever you are, because we are nomads and we are traveling, and I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow, but I would like to have my coffee. So all that gadgets ready to take. Also the importance of the technology, but not technology because we need to be techie, if not to add to create value in the world. This is amazing. Also it's a project of Google with Assembly of Youth UNICEF.
On the 25th of September 2015, the UN General Assembly of World Leaders convened to discuss the global goals, a new universal set of targets to help people all over the world. UNICEF, in collaboration with Google, saw an opportunity to put disadvantaged and vulnerable children at the heart of the agenda. This is the Assembly of Youth, an installation bringing the voices of real children from all over the world to the heart of the United Nations headquarters in New York. Each figure represented a real child, speaking out about what matters to them. They were designed and arranged to mirror the Royal General Assembly Hall, symbolizing a newly formed assembly of children, representing their individual nations. UN Report, UNICEF's social monitoring tool, sent a series of thought-provoking questions to a network of children in developing nations, inviting them to respond for free from any mobile phone, even with SMS, and have their messages appear in the main entrance of the UN.
I'm scared of walking home all by myself. I want to stay in school so one day I can feed my family.
The hopes and needs of real children were put in front of world leaders as they made their way into the General Assembly Hall to initiate talks. UNICEF, David Beckham and Ban Ki-moon unveiled the Assembly of Youth in front of global media.
So check what's doing Google, because more than a search like our first page in the browser is like investing a lot of money in all that kind of topics, but in real you can go to Google Labs or Google Classes and they said, okay, we are not going to work in our system, I would like to create value in the world. That's super amazing. Refugees Info EU, it's everything done by Google Docs, and it's for the refugee cause, and they make like, okay, what can we do when people arrive to Greece or the other countries without knowing the language and with no information and with no mobile, so they make technology based on Google Docs, the easiest thing, so everyone can upload like documents and information for them, and there are some videos on the internet that you can share. And just arriving to the end, okay, in this symbiosis we can talk about luxury, because everything needs to look like sustainability and sharing, but at the end this is also luxury. If we have had time to talk about that amazing word, which I love, for sure we will talk about craftsmanship and everything like it's by hand and also by technology. Sustainability, because it's sexy and it's a looks, and time. This for me is like luxury. This is Loewe and it's like a needle punch, so it's without, you can see like how they sell like all the fabrics, but at the end you are wearing this dress and people came to you and touch it and you need to explain, so it's like luxury in the know, and it's symbiosis with everyone because it's good for the environment but also looks well on me, and then I can talk about my dress, so there are a lot of layers while I'm wearing something. Then it's craftsmanship, it's Björk with James T. Mary. James T. Mary is a guy living in Reykjavik and from New York, and it's the one doing all that things for Björk, and for me this is luxury. There's a lot of time doing this because it's like 3D printing but then hands-on working, so it's like a mix and symbiosis of techniques to do something like that. Then for sure it is Van Herpen, that it's working from 3D in fashion, it's like their reference, but at the end it's like doing that kind of things that looks like it doesn't fit in the world we are living, but there are people paying a lot and there are a lot of exhibitions around him. Then when we talk about time, for sure we know places where the coffee is free, sandwiches are free, everything is free, you just pay for time, so the new concept of coffee places. But if we are in a better society and experiment and never-ending change, maybe that would be the future. And then if we talk about time, which I recommend you to talk, because time looks like the same in different countries and with different cultures, you can just double check the exhibition of Patricia Orchiola, which is architect and designer, and that was in Milan. And just the first idea was to go inside the exhibition. There were 2 doors, and one was like fast track and you have like even a red carpet, and the other one was that door, so I don't know which one you would choose. For sure I would choose fast track because otherwise I'm late with the red carpet, but when you were inside this you can see the exhibition because you need to go super fast because you have someone come on. So at the end the purpose of the exhibition was you can enjoy the meaning because you were like running. So let's think about time, because time is here. And time when the cars are gonna be like sharing or are gonna be like autonomous. So I just would like to end with this example because we need to reimagine everything, because now if I'm in a car in 3 years time I'm not driving, so the car is going alone. The inside of the car is going to be a car, or it's going to be like a house, or it's going to be a living room. Or if I'm sharing, I need maybe to have like Wi-Fi in the car or a desk to work while my colleague is like driving, so we need to go over there. The importance of rituals, I think like all the projects, brands in this context has like rituals. This is a ritual, Lulemon Atletica, for sure you know that brand. It's about yoga, and they are like making like meditation in the windows of the stores, and they make like playgrounds because they have their own rituals. So we need to look for the rituals. Even Spotify, like the mood of the day, like Friday, sex songs, they have like our own, they make our rituals. So at the end, just 4 things, we are more powerful than we think, but we need to think and rethink and rethink. Then we need to embrace the chaos. All that projects, I think they embrace the chaos, and they know we are living in a chaos, so for sure they are not opposite to, okay, I could change my proposal in 2 years' time, or in 2 weeks' time, or in 2 months. So diversity, 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 diversity as an issue. Deal with present. Here the first sentence was invent future, and then I deleted because I think invent future it's not. Deal with present because it's what's here and outside. And then as the video we say in Carla, we need to go to basic and to make like simple things. Simple is not like, it could be kitsch or could be like complex, but in a easy and in a simple way, and to living with the world we are living in. And just before the talks, a little un mundo que gira. Thank you.
Very good. So now we are open for questions and comments from all of you before we go to a coffee break. So if you have any questions, I'll give you the okay. The microphone, use the microphone because we are streaming. So if you don't use the microphone, the people who are watching won't be able to hear you. So anybody has a question? Comments? How do you feel about everything you just saw?
No questions.
Juan Pablo.
Okay, hi. What do you think, hi, is the first step to start to process to symbiosis? You know, because for example, I have a company, but okay, I think okay, maybe it's a good idea work with H&M, but for H&M is not interesting work with me, you know. What kind? Okay, what is the correct step or the formula to be more attractive, or I don't know, or start the spark to this kind of work, the symbiosis process?
Good question.
I would say that the first step is what we are doing here, is trying to have this way of understanding complexity and how relationships may work, and probably understanding how this complexity of these relationships work. So when you think about I want to work with H&M, that's an idea, but then you first have to understand the complexity of the relationships around H&M, the relationships about your project, how they would really have a mutual benefit, a mutual fulfillment, as our Indian marketing expert was saying, and how you can really provide and get, give and get. So when we understand all this complexity, mapping our reality around us, we can understand which are those possible relationships, or which are those values that are going to be exchanged, and how value is perceived in one side and the other. So when you go to H&M and offer at first they will evaluate this, right? Is this a partner in our complexity? Is this the type of relationship we want to start? Is this the value we're receiving and giving? Does it match the kind of value we're receiving and giving? And then you will have a yes or you will have a no. So, but the first approach for any company or entrepreneur or project or government is to really be able to map and understand the complexity around them or around her. And from there, create a strategy, which is what we are pretending to do during the week. I don't know if you want to add something.
Like to add something, like I think it's really important. I think it's really important when you have like all this mapping and this how the relationships work, like stress your singularity, because for sure H&M it's coming to you if you have like something really special. And when I said special, it's like, okay friend, but all of us we have something special, but let it know. For example, when they go, if you would ask me like before, like who is gonna choose H&M to open, I never would say Flax and Kale, and I know like the Flax and Kale family, and when they come to me and say like, sorry, you, and they have like juices like 10 euros with I don't know which kind of ingredients, so for that reason H&M went to them, because they were like super special, like doing juices super expensive and with rituals in the place where you have like kale and flaxitarian things, so they were like singular. So I think, I don't know, the other day we were talking about that and Carla used win-win, and I like more symbiosis. I'm not really into the win-win, because when you have a company always they would like to, no, that's a win-win, and at the end when someone says a win-win, normally it's not a win-win, it's like win and one, so it's not. So symbiosis I think is like a good, yeah, it's like transversal and equal.
Like, how do you inspire traditional industries or organizations to think in this way? I think that it's like a more creative field thought. I think that everything that we are seeing here is so useful and is so important, but is so nowadays I see it is a little bit limited for creative agencies, industry, but traditional industries are not in like that in like deep into this thought. So how do you think we should inspire those industries or organizations to think in this way? Am I clear?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is maybe to wait a bit for this tradition. I mean, to approach to these traditional companies. It's true that there are some companies that are more prepared, and those will be the companies more receptive to that. But the traditional companies will evolve because society is evolving and generations are changing. So this is something that may be now a bit far away from them, but it's not going to be that far away in a few years, no? So well, the inspiration needs to be, but the reception it's more clear in companies that are already more into this new mindset, no? I would say. Besides that,
I would say that is the typical approach of autonomy and heteronomy. So traditional companies, as you were referring, normally are used to work on their heteronomy. I need myself and 4 suppliers, or I need myself and my system, and then when that system is not enough, or when other companies are creating other systems that are more efficient, they feel urgency. They feel their complexity around them changes. So somehow the same complexity forces them into heteronomy, like recognizing all these things they depend upon and looking for a balance between autonomy and heteronomy that is more towards the idea of symbiosis again.
Again, we are in this transitional period, so it's everything, you know, it's making a transition, no? But at the moment, yeah, they will be pushed by the context, but their paradigm, their frame of reference, it's still another, no? So.
Like in this like context, I don't know, it's my super subjective way. Sorry. it's my subjective way. I work with a lot of companies like traditional ones, and the older guys, like the chief directors, they are super open-minded. And if you talk with them like 15 minutes and you explain something, they say, okay, I would like to have something in my team to do that. I don't know what's Everlane, but if you said that we need to go over there, and then when you work with like people like 30, 40, for me, they are more traditional like the others in big companies, because they, oh, the chaos, or everything is changing, no. But then the older ones, like the expertise, let them know that they need to change, because they have changed a lot since the beginning. And if you talk with someone with 50 years company, knows that needs to change and change. But he doesn't know the way, but needs like change. So I think that's like important thing. If you talk with the big one, knows, okay, we need to change, because I always been changing. So I think that's really important to make them believe in the change.
Do you see a difference between the way that strategies and patterns and trends work out for brands and for companies versus like the nonprofit NGO world? Yeah.
I think if we understand like a company as a company and governments as governments, or it's like categories, and I think last year at the same time we were talking about Bauman, and there are like no categories, and I think it's the same. Like if I'm thinking about a NGO in Africa, I know some of you are thinking about that, or H&M, I think like the strategy and the way of working is the same, because at the end it's maybe no money or like dividendos, or I don't know, if not to have something, my vision.
A strategy for all type of organizations is key, and strategy is the element that will help all types of companies or organizations or governments to go through complexity. So it's like the map you have for navigating complexity, basically. So maybe some of them need a type of strategy, more aggressive, more expensive, but it's a strategy at the end.
I think, how are the values that you think could be useful to understand interdependence? Because I think a lot of examples that we already saw here were about give, right? To open your knowledge, to give another service, to share. I think solidarity could be one of them, but maybe there's a toolbox of values to understand that interdependence in order to not be trapped in that idea of I'm depending on you, you are depending on me, and maybe create a relationship about power between the parts, right? So I think maybe there's a toolbox to understand how can we embrace this idea of symbiosis or interdependence related with our understanding of community.
I don't know.
A package of values that could be useful to understand interdependence in their full meaning.
I think it's for sure they know a toolbox of values, but for sure in this box needs to be a micro to talk and speakers to let know people, and then because it's like a conversation, and it's not just given. If not, like Jorge said, it's like someone give you and then you give, and it's like listening when you have like a company or government or projects. And in these values, for sure, is like discussion. I don't know if it's a value or discussion, conversation, hearing, and then like make it real.
Well, empathy, of course, authenticity, vision, consciousness, as we mentioned before, to be aware of the others, of your context. I don't know. Which others values do you think now?
I agree with Francesca. There's not a fixed set of values. And it's very specific on which type of relationship you're establishing between what government and companies, government and citizens, citizens and companies or customers, and so it really is really situational. And if the values, one thing I can say is that if the values connect and the exchange works, it will work. There will be symbiosis. If not, well, there won't be. And you can just know it right away.
But what she said, no, the importance is to know the other, to know yourself and to know the other, and to exchange that knowledge in order to see what matches, what you have in common, no, to share and to have this symbiosis. Understand more than to know.
You talk about the beta society and everything. So my question is, we constantly go through changes and the future is uncertain. So how can we know that we are going in the right direction on the strategy or on the research communities?
By never losing track of your target, by always being aware of what's going on in the context with them, observing, researching,
but
analyzing.
Well, in this case, like H&M, that they have a lot of communities and a lot of targets. How can they focus their research on?
There is a type of organization or institution. It's called the observatories. Many companies have observatories and organizations that are exclusively dedicated to be there watching and seeing all the changes and adapting immediately. So that could be a way, to. But
don't be afraid of experiment. Because when H&M opens that store, they said, okay, if I need to close the store in 5 months, I'm going to close the store. So it's like, I'm not doing this forever and I'm going to be here in 5 years' time, I'm going to be part of the skyline of Barcelona. It's like, no, it's like experiment. But as Carla said, I think like all companies has observatories, must be like a mandatory. And H&M has an observatory like all of us thinking for H&M like daily. Imagine all of us thinking for H&M. So I hope they do the things well, because they have they are paying a lot of money for that. But if you are a small project, you also need to watch and observe, because that's really important. You need to stop like your engine, and today I'm not going to work. If not, I'm going to see what's happening with my client, consumer, friend, citizen. Because people normally is like working, and forget to watch and to see, and I think, and to listen, and that's, because if not, you are going to go to a wall, and you need to stop and, by your eyes or your team, I mean, if we are a team, maybe I need to work and she's going to observe, or in the other way, but someone needs to pay attention to reality, because if not, then you are late.
Well, somehow that's your work. That's actually your work. And the only certain thing we have is uncertainty. And uncertainty we can balance with permanent observation and permanent evaluation of everything that happens. That's, again, going back to the understanding of complexity. And all the tools that you're going to use this week are about this observation and analysis of each one of those elements. One last question before we go to coffee break.
Okay. What do you think is the risk of the symbiosis? What is the bad phase of this kind of process for both companies, for example? What is the risk in
first and last question? The risk is that it doesn't work. That's it.
Or the risk could be like you would be the other, or the other would like to be you. I think if there's a symbiosis, you need to be in love with you, because if not, if we make like a symbiosis, I'm not in love with me, maybe at the beginning I think I'm there, I'm them. So you need to think about you like a team, but thinking about you. I think that's important risk, because then if not, it's like, okay, imagine Flax and Kale and H&M, an example, and okay, Flax and Kale now thinks as H&M and it's not. You are Flax and Kale and you are you and you have your values and we make a good team, but I talk loud and you talk like silence and we are a team, but I'm not going to talk louder because you talk louder. So you need to love you or your project or the part of the symbiosis, I think.
Yes. Yeah, respecting your individuality, at the same time be part of this group.
When it doesn't work is because you either become the other, so you're not giving value anymore because you're the other, you know, like, referring to what Francesco was saying.
Okay, it's interesting to see these cases too, no? Or if it exists, because everything is very okay, is beautiful. Yeah, you know, the symbiosis is perfect.
It's very ideal.
Yeah, symbiosis goes wrong all the time, because when you have like failed partnerships or you know, projects that don't really work, we should bring some of them. Yeah, that's interesting too. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so there's one. Yeah. Yeah. We have time.
Is similar to the question of Juan Pablo, but I am thinking in a imaginarium, maybe 100 years, and if all of us we are sharing our knowledge, and the powerful companies are doing the same, in one moment, maybe 100 years, the capitalism is above, maybe, we don't know, but I think one of the risks is maybe the powerful companies want to above this methodology, because maybe no one needs to the other company. You know what I mean? For example, if we are sharing our knowledge, I don't need you because we are sharing, so I don't care about you in this moment. So I think in one moment, this knowledge is I don't know if you understand what is the
We're trying, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know if it's like Amazon. Amazon has like all our information if you are buying on Amazon, but then you can think Amazon is going to be giant and alone and stand alone, but then Amazon needs like physical, real life stores where they can pick your thing and then you go there. So even if they have like all the data and all the information, they need to symbiosis or to make team with small stores where you can go and pick up your thing because you are not at home. So at the end you can have like all the information, and we are in a big data market, but then we live in real life. So even they have like the power, they need real life for a lot of things. I don't know if this
changes all the time. Changes with you. So in the complexity, data changes all the time, and you change all the time, and we create different currents and trends and groups and tribes, and that changes all the time. So if we didn't change, they get your information and that's it. But you do change, you do improve, you get in touch with other stimuli, and you change your behavior. So that's a constant flow. I don't know if I understood your question. Okay, good. So we're going to go grab our coffee and stretch your legs, and we at around 7:15 or so, we will meet at the room 110 to listen to the pitches and make the teams and get the methodology to work during the week. Thanks.